Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Found Love While Saving a Supermodel? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. After lunch and a quick smoke break, Izuku was doing his normal portal. He waved at fans who waved at him, wanting to catch his attention, and took photos with some brave enough to ask. He was the #1 hero, the new symbol of peace after All Might's retirement, his mentor. He loved being a hero, even though it was stressful, which is why he picked up smoking. His mother and All Might have gotten on to him for picking up the bad habit, but his argument against it is they would rather him be sober than drunk while on duty. It worked, seeing as they stopped with the lectures. A lot of pros actually smoked during breaks since they couldn't always drink a nice beer when stressed. After a smoke, he always sprays on light-smelling cologne to cover up the odor, definitely since it's mainly kids who like to come up to him and get pictures or autographs. He also helps out at UA with teaching their hero courses. He always liked helping with teaching. He got to see more amazing quirks that a new generation of heroes will have. He always asked the kids about their quirks to write down in his quirk analysis journals. The kids always liked how he loved to talk about their quirks and how to overcome weaknesses and strategies for ways to use their quirks in new ways they never thought about before. The teachers enjoyed having him there since the kids always seemed way more eager to learn and always asked him questions regarding how to improve their quirks. He never liked all the attention, making him all nervous and jittery, but he's a sucker when it comes to quirks. He can talk and talk when it comes to talking about them. He doesn't talk about his own quirk though, not with what happened during the war back when he was in high school. Everyone knew of One for All, just not all that went into it. He avoided the topic when it was ever asked about, and eventually, everyone got the memo and stopped asking about it. He couldn't be more grateful for that. The war was also a touchy subject because he had taken part in 2 major villains' deaths. All for One's and Tenko Shimura, formerly known as Tamura Shigaraki, the leader of the League of Villains. He felt horrible about having to kill Tenko, but he didn't have much of a choice. He was too far gone from being manipulated. As for All for One, he had no sympathy for that maniac. He was glad he was gone. He caused too much trouble for the world. Even though he killed 2 villains back in high school, he didn't have much backlash from it. Some people were upset that he killed someone because heroes don't kill, but the sad truth was, sometimes they do. Hawks has taken over the Hero Public Safety Commission, so what happened with him and Lady Nagant and other heroes doesn't happen ever again. They were used as mercenaries to kill villains that could cause too much trouble for heroes in the future. He's even helping Achiko with her program to help kids with quirks that come with disorders like Toga Himako or villainous quirks, along with quirkless kids. Izuku himself donated to the program, loving the idea. The program officially opened 3 years ago, and he was there for the grand opening to support his best friends since high school. Lots of their friends were there, along with other heroes who supported and donated for it to happen. Achiko had cried out of pure joy at having her dream come to life, something she'd been planning since their 2nd year after the war. Because of the war, he quickly became #1 after he graduated and started his own agency. He was beyond happy about it all, but he couldn't help how his heart ached, like there was a hole there that hadn't been filled since Tenko's death. Like a part of him was missing. He could never describe it, but Achiko understood how he felt, feeling the same since Toga died giving her her blood. She was never quite the same either. Something in her changed after her fight with her, like some part of her left with Toga. Luckily, she found someone who helped fill that hole inside her, and helped her heal from wounds she didn't know she still had. Her name was Chishio, meaning tide of blood. He met her. She was a lovely woman. The two had met sometime after high school. She was a fan of Achiko's and supported the program she wanted to create. She even helped Achiko with it and got the word out to get the funding. She made a website for the program people could go to get more information on it and donate if they pleased. She dabbled in programming, but she was a nurse with a blood-related quirk. She could change someone's blood type into someone else to help transfer blood to someone else. It was handy when it came to rare blood types. Izuku had a feeling that she reminded Achiko of Toga because of her quirk. She was even a light blonde, looking white in the sunlight. She was a year older and a bit taller than Achiko. They got together a year after meeting and are now planning their wedding after getting engaged a little over a year ago. He was happy for her. Izuku was waiting for that person to come into his life. Someone who could complete him. Like how Achiko had Chishio. He wanted someone who understood him, which he knows not many will, but he wanted someone to at least not judge him and say his feelings weren't valid. That he shouldn't feel bad for killing a villain, how he felt like he should have been able to do more for Tenko. He wanted someone to help him heal. Someone to go home to and/or work beside. Someone he could love and get that same love back. He wanted to feel love for someone. He didn't want to be alone anymore. He wanted a spark. He wanted a home. A scream knocked him out of his thoughts, and his danger sense went haywire as dust clouded his vision. He let out a small curse before running towards the dust cloud and punching a gust of wind to clear it. His eyes quickly scanned the area and saw that something big had crashed into the front of a jewelry store. He ran to the store, looked inside, and saw a huge guy inside bagging jewelry and money from the cash registers. Why do people rob places in plain daylight? Doing it at night would be more effective if you wanted to get away with it, but he busted through the front of the store as if he was wanting to catch a hero's attention. He muttered to himself. He looked around and saw captives, so he couldn't do anything too reckless. He had to get them out first. He then looked back at the robber and saw that he had a person over his shoulder, tied up. He used Black Whip to grab the civilians, pulling them out of the shop, and placing them on the sidewalk. They thanked him as he finally stepped foot into the shop. "Hey, drop the lady and turn yourself in. It'll make it easier for both of us," he told the robber, who turned his head towards him. The lady looked up at him. His emerald eyes met ruby red, and his heart skipped a beat. She seemed to want to say something, but her mouth was taped shut. She struggled against the guy's shoulder, wanting to be let go and freed. The man then turned to him. "And why would I do that?" he asked in a deep voice. "I only came to pick up some things." He grinned before smacking the lady on her upper thighs and the cliff of her bottom. The lady squirmed before moving her legs to knee the guy in the face. The guy groaned in pain before dropping her onto the ground that was covered in glass. He could hear her scream of pain from behind the tape. "Sit still, you're worth a pretty penny," he told her with a smirk before looking at Izuku. "Now, let's get the show on the road. I have somewhere to be," he grinned. Izuku gritted his teeth as he fisted his fist beside him. He was going to make sure the guy paid for hurting that lady. The guy ran at him, ready to punch him. Izuku easily dodged and sent a strong punch to his gut, sending the guy flying backward, but before he could crash into anything, Izuku caught and tied him up with Black Whip. Once he was sure the guy was secure, he walked up to the lady lying on the floor over a layer of broken glass. She was already untying her legs. "Are you okay?" he asked her worriedly. She finished cutting the rope around her ankles with a shard of glass before ripping the tape off her mouth. He couldn't help but grimace, knowing that hurt. The tape left a red spot around her mouth. He held out his hand to help her up, but she whacked his hand away, making his eyes widen in surprise. She stood up herself with a groan. He saw the glass that pierced into her skin, blood leaking from the wounds. "I'm fine," she said gruffly as she glared up at him, her red eyes once again meeting his green ones. His breath got caught in his throat as he finally got a good look at her face. She was stunning. Beautiful. Her hair was a beautiful ash blondie, sticking out in long and short sharp spikes around her head like a halo. Her eyes were sharp with long dark blonde lashes on a face with no imperfections. She had nice plump pink lips with a heart-shaped face. She had fair skin that looked milky smooth. "Deku, where's the villain?" he heard his sidekick. He tore his eyes off the beauty in front of him and looked back at his sidekick, Ghost. Like his name, he can use the traits of a ghost. He was one of his lower-class men while at UA. His actual name is Masashi. "Oh, he's right here," Izuku told him as he moved the villain to where he was in front of Masashi. Izuku moved the villain around with Black Whip to where his hands were tied behind his back so quirk-canceling HFFS could be put on. Masashi cuffs the guy before he lets him go, and the black tendrils returned to him and vanished. The villain was taken into custody and the civilians were looked at by medics. He looked back down at the lady to speak to her, but his voice seemed caught in his throat. Those captivating ruby-red eyes were on him, looking at him, scanning him. "Ma'am, let's get you to the medics so they can look at your injuries," Masashi said from beside him, making him jump, startled. He raised a brow at him and he chuckled sheepishly. "Whatever," she said before walking past the two with a small limp. Izuku frowned before following her and picking her up. She let out a yelp of shock as she wrapped an arm around his neck to ground herself. "The hell?" "So sorry, I'll take you to them," he stuttered out, finally able to speak to her. "I can walk there myself," she snapped at him. "But you're hurt. You're limping," he told her, worry clear in his voice. Fine, she cursed as she unwrapped her arm from his neck to cross her arms over her chest. He smiled sheepishly at her as he started his way towards the medics. He sat her down on a curb where a medic instructed him to put her. The medic followed with a first aid kit to tend to her wounds. Izuku stepped back to let the medic do their job, but his eyes were on the young lady. He could get a better look at her now. She had a nice large plump chest and a snatch waist with wide hips. She had beautifully milky smooth, long, shapely legs that could be seen under her short black denim high-waist shorts that she paired with black shiny flats. She had on a thin, long-sleeved, white blouse with a white spaghetti-strapped tank top underneath. Her blouse was now tainted with blonde from being cut by broken glass and had a couple of rips on the sleeves. He doesn't know why he was so captivated by this woman. His heart was racing, banging against his chest. It was so loud he could hear it in his ears. His face felt so flushed that it was probably hot to the touch. His ears burned uncomfortably on the side of his head. "You're all done, Bigason," the medic said as they stood up. "Bakugo," he thought. As in the young popular model, Katsuki Bakugo? "Thanks," she sighed as she stood up, dusting herself off. "Of course, ma'am," the medic said before moving to tend to someone else. Someone then raced over to them and pulled the women into a hug. "Katsuki-sama. You're okay," the person said, relieved. He saw another woman around the same height as Katsuki. She had straight short magenta hair pulled back into a half-up half-down hairstyle with bangs that reached her eyebrows. She had small oval-shaped glasses on and wore a black pencil shirt that went just above her knees with a white blouse and short black heels. Katsuki pushed the woman off her shoulders as she spoke. "Yes, I'm fine." The lady pulled back and looked over at Izuku. "Thank you for saving Katsuki-sama, Deku," she told him gratefully with a deep bow. Izuku raised his hands and waved them at her frantically. "Of course, no reason to bow. Please pick your head up." She picked her head up and looked at him with wide eyes the color of her hair. "I'm just glad no one was seriously injured," he smiled at her. "Yes, me too. And thanks again for saving us," she smiled brightly at him. He chuckled lightheartedly with a bright smile in return. "Of course." She then turned to Katsuki. "Come on, let's get you home so you can change," he told the blonde softly. Katsuki only nodded before following the women. Izuku watched the two leave, but his eyes were on Katsuki, watching her hips sway as she. Katsuki Bakugo was a popular young model, only a couple of years younger than him. Her quirk was glycerin. The quirk allowed her to produce a smooth liquid from their skin, giving her flawless skin. She got it from her mother, who was a fashion designer alongside her husband. Katsuki started modeling at a young age, around the time she entered middle school. She quickly became famous among young people and creepy old men. She's a feisty woman and generally doesn't get along with anyone and only smiles in front of the camera if she has to for the shoot. She modeled hero merchandise, along with the latest fashion trends, and as of recently started modeling for more adult magazines. Her quick success made her rich from a young age, and she had a private education. Even if she wasn't well off, her parents were and wanted the best for their only child. However, because of her quirk, she is considered quirkless. Lots of people who have considerably worthless quirks are considered as such. Izuku found it stupid because they are not actually quirkless. He used to be and might be again in the future, and he hates that people call people with useless quirks quirkless when there are still people who are actually quirkless. Being quirkless is worse than having a shitty or useless quirk. The main thing is you have one. The world knows he used to be quirkless before being given his quirk, and he's spoken out against the issues and even said that even though you're quirkless you're not useless because not everyone who considerably has a quirk to become a hero becomes a hero, out of choice or not. It's like saying anyone who has a quirk who doesn't become anything useful is useless, and he hates it. Because to him, no one is useless unless they make themselves useless. It's like his whole FANG motto. He preaches it when he's ever asked, and his friends do the same. He knows there are people out there who think the same because he's been tagged in multiple posts on social media. I see Bakugo-san has captured your heart like she has multiple men, Masashi said, knocking him out of his thoughts. Katsuki had gotten in a car and drove off. Izuku blushed heavily. What, no? His voice came out higher-pitched as if he were lying, and he probably was. He wasn't sure if Katsuki had captured his heart. Yes, she was absolutely stunning, but that didn't mean he fell for her. Maybe his pounding heart said otherwise. Don't worry. I'm not judging. She's a beauty, ain't she? He grinned up at him. Masashi was a couple of centimeters shorter than him, standing around 5'9", almost 5 feet 10 inches while he stood at 5'11 and a half. Yeah, he agreed breathlessly. Masashi chuckled as he patted him on the back. Come on, you have to fill out statements. Izuku nodded before following him to talk with the police. Katsuki got in the back seat of her assistant's car calmly. When she closed the door, a bright blush graced her cheeks as she covered her face with a groan. Her assistant, Fuchsia, giggled from the front seat. Buckle up, Katsuki-sama, Fuchsia told her with a grin. Katsuki quickly buckled up before going back to covering her flustered face. Fuchsia put the car in drive and started their way to Katsuki's apartment. You going to be okay? She asked the blonde knowingly. Yes, if Katsuki snapped at her, more out of embarrassment than anger. Katsuki had a huge crush on the green-haired hero. She's never personally met him till now, always too nervous to actually go up and talk to him. And when she had the chance to talk to him, she blew it by being mean because she was flustered. When he became a hero and started getting his own merchandise, she made sure to model them. She hoped maybe he might say something to her since she models his wearable merchandise, but he never said anything, in person or online. Her crush on him started when he was still at UA and she was in middle school just starting her modeling career. She saw him a lot around the city helping random people out who needed it. Well, she actually met him personally once while they were in school, but she doubts he remembers her. Her hair was longer and she wore glasses. She never met him after that incident. That was pure coincidence. She was having a rough day. The new schedule of modeling was finally getting to her and her fans were constantly crowding her. She hated crowds and people in general. They only liked you if you were useful anyway, so once she became famous, her bullies stopped bullying her and just started outright bugging her and never getting out of her hair. It seemed like everywhere she went someone recognized her and they had to talk to her and take pictures as if she didn't have privacy anymore. It was annoying. But that day, while she had been crying because of all of the stress in a park at night, he happened to walk by and hear her. He had walked over to her and asked if she was okay and if she wanted to talk, and for some reason, it was like everything that was weighing her down spud out of her. She complained and cried and he sat there and listened and patted her back to comfort her. When she was done talking about everything that was weighing her down, he smiled softly at her and asked if she felt better now that she had gotten that all off her chest. She only simply nodded as she wiped her eyes and sniffled. Then how about I give you some words of advice that always kept me going, he smiled softly at her. She had only nodded in response, and he continued. When things get hard, it's okay to cry, but when you stop crying, get back up on your feet and start again, he smiled softly but brightly at her. She blinked. My mom tells me when I'm having a hard time, to think about being in a race and at the finish line you are overcoming your challenges. That finish line isn't going to move, only the people in the race will, so you have to move forward to cross it, he smiled. So are you going to cross the finish line or are you going to stand still and wish it comes to you? He asked. Katsuki had imagined her in a running race and the finish line a couple of feet in front of her waiting for her. She wasn't walking or running to it, she was just standing there looking at it. She imagined herself being able to run through the paper ribbon that was tied to a pole on each side of the finish line, but her feet stayed still. She couldn't move, her body feeling heavy, but then she felt a hand on her back and pushed her forward. She stumbled forward before looking behind her and saw the green-haired teen smiling at her as if telling her to run. To finish the race she started. Her feet moved slowly before slowly she was running and she crossed the line, breaking the paper ribbon. She smiled happily before turning around and he wasn't there anymore. Katsuki looked at the guy beside and grinned, "I'm crossing that finish line." He smiled brightly with a happy cheer, "Good." Katsuki remembered their first meeting as if it happened yesterday. After that day she paid more attention to him and found out he was a hero corps student at UA. He grew popular while in school and once he graduated he was already a top hero. He was strong and kind, always helping those in need. She couldn't help how her feelings blossomed for the guy. "What am I going to do? He probably thinks I'm a beach." She cried as she slouched in the car seat. "Katsuki-sama, most people think you are one. You have a reputation for being mean," Fuchsia replied. Katsuki groaned as she ran her hands down her face. "Yeah, but I don't want him to think I'm one. What if we meet again and he remembers me as an ungrateful girl who didn't even thank him for saving them?" She whined as she stomped her feet like a child throwing a tantrum. "I'm sure he's had worse experiences with people," Fuchsia reassured her. It didn't make her feel any better. She crossed her arms as she looked out the window sulking. Fuchsia sighed at her childlike behavior. "In pure honesty, he looked more stargazed than upset when looking at you," she told her honestly. Katsuki blinked at her, confused. She was honestly too busy freaking out about the whole thing than actually looking at him. "If anything, he'll remember you as the hot girl he saved at a jewelry store," Fuchsia said. Katsuki couldn't help the blush that graced her cheeks once again before groaning. She just wanted to get home and cry about the whole thing again and then eat some ice cream to help her feel better. Izuku was in his office at his agency, looking things up about the young model he met earlier today. He couldn't get her off his mind. He knew they probably wouldn't meet again anytime soon or never, but he wanted to find a way to meet her again, like finding out her favorite cafes and restaurants and seeing if he could run into her there. Or find out what places she frequently goes to and run into her there. Masashi said he was being a stalker about it, but he doesn't see it. He just wants to find a way to see her again without it being while he's on duty, so they can actually talk. He was off duty and should be heading home, but he often stayed at his office, it being like a second house for him. He lives more at his agency than in his own apartment. His office was set up a lot like a studio on the top floor of his agency. It was a big open space with the back wall being a glass wall looking over the city with a small balcony he often smoked on. It was also easy for him to leave his agency, often leaving from his office balcony. He had a big desk that sat in the middle of the room, in front of the glass wall, and in front of the door leading to the balcony. He had a nice office chair that he rolled back and forth from his desk and out onto the balcony for a smoke break. He had 2 couches in front of his desk with a low glass table in between them. He had one wall full of sleeves full of multiple things. He had his own merch along with his friends and All Might's merch on the sleeves. He had souvenirs from when he went out of the country to visit other places, along with things fans have given him. The other wall in the corner of the room, the double doors to his office, was a folding bed where he normally slept if he didn't fall asleep on one of the couches. He had a tall locker beside it to keep clothes he could change into. He had a mini fridge by his desk where he stored refrigerated foods and drinks, and had a 3-layered cart beside it full of snacks and cup ramen. His office at the moment looked a lot like his apartment, a disaster full of paperwork, trash, and clothes. He's just never gotten around to doing it. Masashi has gotten on to him multiple times about cleaning it, but he just never feels up to it. It's not that he can't clean. He can. He just felt drained. He didn't have the motivation to clean it up. He barely had the motivation to get out of bed or put on his suit. His spark was gone and it's been gone for years now. He's tried to get it back but nothing works. The only thing that helps is smoking. It helps lighten everything. Makes it less of a mess. It kept him calm. His mom cleans his apartment every so often while he's not there. His office was cleaned every so often by Masashi and some of his other sidekicks. He pays them more when they do, knowing they took time out of their day to help him. He felt horrible for having them do it, to take care of him because he couldn't bring himself to. He'd pay his mom too, but she said she doesn't need it and just wants him to take some time off to visit her. He always does. He'd try to help her out around the house, but she tells him to sit down and relax and that she'll take care of everything. He felt horrible about that too. She was his mother. He should be doing more than just being a waste of space. He wants to do more for her. She's done everything for him. She's supported him through all of his struggles and his weird habits. Supported his dream even though it was completely impossible at first. She always got him the all-might merch he wanted for his birthdays and on Christmas, even though they didn't have a lot of money. With all of the things she's done for him, he's basically done nothing to show how much he appreciates her for all of it. On Mother's Day, he did the bare minimum, always seeming to be busy with work. He'd send her favorite flowers, but never visit to hand them in person. After the war, he stopped how he usually spent Mother's Day with her. She never forced him to do anything, always just happy to see he's alive and okay. She deserved so much better than stupid flowers. She deserved so much more than a son who can't show how much he appreciates her. She deserved the world, and he can barely give himself the time to visit her and be a good son. He was set off at himself for being a crappy son. A crappy friend. A crappy boss. His burdens aren't for others to take, but yet he lets others take care of his problems like a child. Izuku wiped the tears that started to form by simply thinking about all of it. His mom said once he finds his spark again, he'll feel better as a person, but he doesn't know when he'll find it. He might never find it. Boss, you okay? Izuku blinked his tears away as he looked at the door to his office. He saw Masashi looking at him worriedly. He wiped his eyes aggressively as he tried to stop the tears, while Masashi walked through his mess of an office to him. Want to talk? He asked. No, I'm okay, he said as he wiped his nose on his sleeve. You sure? He questioned. Izuku nodded before asking, do you need something? You're off duty at this time. Masashi was in civilian clothes, so he was probably about to leave. I saw your light was on and wanted to check on you. Are you staying here again tonight? Yeah, not like my place is any better than here, he told him with an empty chuckle. If you're staying up late, at least try and clean some of it up, Masashi told him. He nodded but was unsure if he actually would. He probably should, though. You going to visit your mother this Mother's Day? He asked. Izuku cursed. He totally forgot Mother's Day was coming up. It's a week from now. I will if I'm not busy, he told him with a groan as he rubbed his temples. You should take the day off and go visit her. Get her more than just flowers. I can take over for you since I don't celebrate it, he told him. Masashi didn't have a great relationship with his mother because of his father. He doesn't know much about the subject, but knows he couldn't care less for his mother. I don't want to put my workload on you, Izuku told him. It's fine. You need a break anyway. You look like you're about to crash, he told him. Izuku felt like he was on his last thread. A break would do some good. Spending it with his mother would help him recharge, and he could also give her a better Mother's Day than the crappy ones he's been giving her. Yeah, I'll take a break. Maybe I'll feel better afterward, he sighed as he leaned back in his chair. Izuku, just so you know, you're not a shitty son, he told him. Doesn't make me feel less of one, he replied. Masashi sighed. Well, I'm heading home. See ya tomorrow. Yeah, see ya tomorrow, Izuku said tiredly. Masashi gave him a small wave before leaving and closing the door behind him. Izuku let out a heavy sigh before grabbing a cigarette and heading out to his balcony with his phone. The crisp night air hit his face as he opened the glass doors to his balcony. He let the doors close behind him as he lit the cigarette. He leaned against the railing and looked down at the street below him. He took a long drag of the cigarette, letting the smoke stay in his mouth for a moment longer before blowing it out. I'm such a mess, he breathed as he hung his head between his shoulders. He wasn't even sure who to call to help him. It was already late, and he was sure most he could call were either asleep or on duty. He didn't want to bother anyone. He definitely wasn't going to call his mom. Yeah, you look like one, someone said, making him jolt backward. He looked around and saw Achiko floating and holding onto the railing. He blinked at her. Achiko? She smiled at him before moving over the railing and releasing her quirk. I happened to be close by and decided to visit, she told him as she leaned her back against the railing with her arms crossed. Izuku sighed as he went back to leaning over the railing. Your office looks worse than the last time I was over, she commented. Yeah, I haven't gotten to it yet, he said before taking a drag of his cigarette. Want me to help? She asked. You don't have to. You're still on duty, he told her. She was still in her hero suit. She smiled softly at him. Izuku, I know you've been having a hard time. It's okay to ask for help. Izuku groaned, though it sounded more like a scream of frustration as he ruffled his hair. I can't keep doing this, he yelled. Hey, it's okay, she said as she put a hand on his shoulder. No, it's not okay. He snapped at her as he moved away from her. I don't deserve all of this kindness. It's like I'm using you guys because I'm acting like a child. I hate it. Look, you're still healing from the war, no matter how much you tell yourself you are, she told him as she stood up straight, one hand on the railing with her pinky up. We all know you're lost and haven't found the spark you lost in high school. Me, your friends, your mother, we all care for you and only want help because we know you will never ask for it. Izuku clenched his jaw as he looked away from her. Izuku, I am here for you, like you were there for me, she said as she took one of his hands into hers. He looked down at their hands. Throw as big of a tantrum as you want. Make a mess and put yourself in a hole, but I will always be here to drag you out of it, she told him seriously but considerately. He pushed his lips together as tears stung his eyes. You are my best friend, Izuku, and nothing will ever change that. If you need to talk, I'm here. If you just want a shoulder to cry on, I'm here. If you just want some company, I'm here. All you have to do is tell me and I'll come running. I'm not leaving you to rot in the hole you've dug yourself into, she told him, her eyes watery as she spoke. She took his other hand into her own. I love you, Pit. I need you to know that, she spoke, her voice strained as tears spilled from her eyes. Izuku's breath hitched as he tried to stop sobs from leaving him. Achiko has always been the one to say what he needed to hear. Has always been by his side through thick and thin. He couldn't have asked for a better best friend. The sister. I love you too, Achiko, he told her as he brought her into a well-needed hug for both of them. She hugged him back tightly, her face in his chest, while he buried his face in her shoulder. She rubbed his back as she tried to control her own tears and cries. How about you come to my house tonight? Chishio and I can make you a nice dinner since I'm sure you haven't had a homemade meal in a while. You can take a nice shower and sleep in the guest room, she told him. He could only nod, not trusting his voice. She pulled back and grabbed his hands gently. Go change. We'll go to my agency afterwards, so I can change, then we'll head home, she explained. He nodded with a sniffle. She gave him a soft, reassuring smile. He put his cigarette out in the ashtray, and Achiko helped him inside. He went to his locker to change. Achiko grabbed his car keys from his mess of a desk. When he was done, he grabbed his phone and wallet, and they headed out after turning off the lights. Achiko wrapped her arm around his as she walked him through his agency to his car. He got in the passenger seat, and she got in the driver's seat. She started the car and headed to her agency. While she got changed, she called Chishio to tell her that Izuku would be staying over. She was completely okay with it and said she'd start working on dinner. Achiko didn't have a car, choosing not to have one, so she didn't have to worry about leaving one of their cars. Izuku's car was a mess, just like the rest of him, to no one's surprise. The ride to her apartment complex, Izuku, was just there. There were no thoughts, no feelings. He was just there staring out blankly in front of him as he slouched in the car seat. He didn't move or say anything, and Achiko said nothing to him. She knew he wasn't in the mindset to talk. Once they got to her apartment complex and parked in the underground parking garage, they headed up to her shared apartment. When they walked through her front door, Achiko announced her presence. Chishio came around the corner and smiled softly at them. Izuku, the bath is ready if you want to bathe first. Dinner will be done in a few more minutes, she told him gently. Yeah, thanks, he said, his voice hollow. Achiko pecked her fiancé on the lips as a greeting before helping Izuku towards the bathroom. They had spare clothes for Izuku since he'd spent the night at their house a couple of times on days like this. They always helped him get back on his feet and let him stay as long as he needed. Chishio put the spare clothes in the bathroom earlier when she got the bath ready. Once he was in the bathroom, Achiko went to her fiancé, who was in the kitchen working on dinner. Later, when he goes to sleep, "Want to help me clean up his car?" she asked. "Of course," she smiled at her. "I wish he didn't do this to himself," she said sadly. Achiko frowned. "Yeah, but I'll drag him out of whatever he's in as many times as he needs it. He just hasn't found himself again yet." Chishio put a hand on her shoulder and gave her a soft smile. "He'll find himself again. It can just take time. It took a while for you to find yourself too," she told her before turning back to the stove. Achiko chuckled with a nod as she hugged her from behind. "Yeah, but I had someone to light my spark again. He doesn't. I just want him to find it before he gets himself killed," she told her sadly as she snuggled into her neck. Chishio patted Achiko's hands that rested on her stomach comfortingly. "He's not completely lonely. Let's just hope he doesn't dig a hole so deep he can't get out of it," she said. Achiko nodded, hoping that didn't happen. He's been close a few times before. He had gotten better in their third year, but 2 years after graduating she found him dead drunk in an alleyway crying to himself. She had picked him up and took him to her place. He stayed with her for a while after that, just so he wasn't lonely, and she wanted to keep an eye on him. Then he got a little better and stayed on his own, and he went right back down the rabbit hole. Since then, he hasn't been quite able to escape that hole. She's seen that spark leave him and come back, only for it to leave again and not come back. She wanted to do more, but there was only so much she could do for him. He needed to find something or someone that brought that back for him. Something that will get him off his butt and try. She knows how it feels to dig yourself into a hole and not be able to get out, needing to find something to latch onto. Something to anchor you when you feel like everything around you is falling apart or moving too fast to keep up. She has watched his will to simply leave him. The only thing holding him together was his job. She could tell he wasn't enjoying himself like he once was. She knows if he could, he would lock himself in his room and never leave. And it seems not many people have realized how bad off he was. Lots of their friends haven't noticed how bad off he really was. How he was spiraling, and the only thing he's found that has helped is cigarettes. She's unsure if they actually work, or he's convinced himself they do, but either way, she doesn't like it. She wished he would get professional help, but she knew he was too stubborn to get it, especially if he could barely ask his friends for help. Achiko heard the bathroom door open. She let go of Chishio and turned to see Izuku coming into the living area, drying his hair with a small towel. "Have a nice bath?" she asked the man. "Yes, thank you," he told her with a small smile. She gave a soft smile back. "Go ahead and sit. Food is done," Chishio told him as she moved to get plates. Izuku simply sat down at the table with the towel around his neck. Achiko helped her fiancé serve food before sitting down to enjoy dinner. She sat across from Izuku while Chishio sat beside her. Izuku looked down at the food places in front of him with chopsticks. "Katsudon?" he questioned. It's been forever since he had any. "Yeah, I've been practicing ever since Achiko told me it was your favorite. I hope it tastes okay," Chishio smiled at him. "Oh, thank you," he mumbled before digging in. He hummed in delight at the first bite. "It's delicious," he grinned. "I'm glad." She smiled brightly. Izuku scarfed down his food, making the two women giggle as they ate their own. He ate a couple of servings of it, feeling starved. Chishio made sure to make plenty, knowing he would be hungry after only surviving on junk food. After he had finished eating, he passed out on the couch with a full stomach. The two smiled softly at him as they cleaned up. Achiko got out an extra blanket to cover him, turned off the headlight, and closed the curtains so only the lamps were on. The two then silently left the apartment to go clean out his car. It took about an hour, but they didn't mind. The two went to bed after a bath and turned off the remaining lights. Izuku woke up the next morning feeling more refreshed. He could hear some noise coming from the kitchen, along with the smell of breakfast. His stomach growled loudly. He rubbed his stomach as he got up and walked over to the kitchen to see Achiko cooking breakfast. She looked back at him and gave a smile. "Morning, feeling any better?" "Yeah." "Where's Chishio?" he asked. "She left for work already." I'm heating up breakfast, and I've started coffee if you want any. I put your cigarettes on the table in the living room if you want to smoke, but do it out of the balcony, she told him. Oh, I'll have some coffee, he said. She smiled and got him a coffee cup and handed it to him. He gave a small smile in return and went to the coffee pot to pour himself some. He put some liquid creamer in and stirred it. He then took his cup of coffee and went to the living room to grab his cigarettes and go out onto the balcony. He set his mug on the thick railing before lighting a cigarette. He looked out over the city. It wasn't very busy, seeing as the sun was just starting to rise. He saw some heroes walking around on patrol while other adult civilians were heading to work. Achiko then came out onto the balcony with her own cup of coffee and sat down in a chair. Sleep okay? She asked. Yeah, I feel a bit more refreshed. Thanks for letting me stay over again, he told her. Of course. You're like a brother to me. You're always welcome here, she replied with a smile before taking a sip of her drink. Chishio doesn't mind either. You're welcome to stay as long as you need, she told him. Yeah, thanks, he smiled at her. She nodded. They looked out at the city and watched as the sun slowly rose. He knows they generally don't care if he stays a bit to catch up on himself. They understood his situation, and they also enjoyed his company. He enjoyed theirs as well. They were always comforting to be around. But he still feels like he's burdening them. Like he's intruding. His thoughts then went back to the young model he saved the other day. Katsuki Bakugo. She had a beautiful name. She herself was beautiful beyond this world. Hey, Achiko, he called out as he put out his cigarette in an ashtray. Chishio smokes every so often when she's overstressed about work. What up? She questioned. What do you know about Katsuki Bakugo? He asked. She blinked. The young ash-blonde model that almost everyone drools over? Yeah, her. He shrugged as he took a gulp of his coffee. Probably as much as the general population would. She is quite a private person, she told him. But I have met her. She modeled for some of my merchandise before with me. You've modeled with her? He questioned as he sat down in the other chair. Yeah. She kept everything professional and kept personal feelings out of it, she said. But she did tell me she supported my program. Oh, really? That's nice, he smiled. Yeah, but I think she's a big fan of yours. She's always modeling your merchandise, she told him with a smirk. Wait, really? He asked. He did some research, but it was more about her private life than her career. Yeah. She only models for heroes she likes, and ever since you started having wearable merchandise, she's been modeling them. I thought you would have noticed, she said. He did not notice. No, I never cared much about taking note of who modeled my merchandise. I don't even have control of it. Masashi takes care of it, he told her. Oh, then why are you asking about her now? She questioned with a raised brow. He couldn't help how a blush formed on his cheeks. I saved her the other day, he stuttered out as he looked away from her. Achiko looked at him with wide eyes. You like her? He snapped his head towards her with wide eyes of his own. What? No. He blushed even more. Oh my God. You do. You're blushing. She grinned. I don't like her, I just thought she was pretty okay. He snapped at her, embarrassed. She grinned even wider. Okay, maybe I haven't been able to stop thinking about her, but that doesn't mean I like her. That definitely means you like her. She told him before doing a little dance in her chair like a giddy teenage girl learning about her friend having their first crush. Are you going to try and meet up with her? She asked with a huge smile. I don't know. How would I even meet up with her? He questioned, still very flustered. You can have a photo shoot with her. You have new merch coming out. It'll be a perfect time to model with her. She told him excitedly. You know I don't like photo shoots, he told her with his eyebrows furrowed. He's done photo shoots before for his merchandise, like cologne and jewelry, but he hated doing ones for clothes. More specifically, when they show a lot of skin. He hated having to show his ragged body. He's noticed it's made people uncomfortable because of the number of scars he has. Out of all of the heroes, he has the most scars, and most are because of OFA. From surgeries to make sure he could use his limbs again after shattering every bone in his limbs multiple times that he could lose them. He has some from villains, too, like the ones on his face. He also just feels uncomfortable showing a lot of skin to people. I know, but unless you want to wait until you guys run into each other again, the quickest way is to do a photo shoot with her, she told him. I'd rather take my chances in running into her, he replied as he stood up and headed back inside. Achiko followed him into the kitchen. They got a plate of food before sitting down at the table. You know there's a very low chance you'll see her again that way, she said, bringing the conversation back. He sighed, knowing it was true, but he wasn't going to do a photo shoot. He'd be too uncomfortable to even talk to her. Or you could message her on her socials, she said. Katsuki was on a lot of social media platforms with thousands of followers on each. Wouldn't she question why the #1 hero is messaging her on social media? Wouldn't that just be weird? He questioned the brunette. It'd be very weird, which is why I think you should do a photo shoot with her so it would be less weird if you messaged her on social media, she explained. Izuku still didn't want to do it, no matter how much he wanted to see her in person again. But would she even want to meet me in person again? She was quite rude the first time we met, he questioned her. She's a fan, Izuku. She was probably just trying to keep her cool. Would you rather her be like some of your other fans? She questioned. Izuku's whole body shuddered at the thought. Some fans were known for going too far, to the point that the police had to get involved. He's had a couple of incidents where fans got a little over touchy-feely or said inappropriate stuff to him. He'd rather deal with the screaming and swarming than that. Yeah, I don't want that, he sighed. Yeah, didn't you get groped one time? She asked as she pointed her chopsticks at him. He nodded with a groan at the reminder. About 3 years ago, a woman in her mid-20s groped his crotch when hugging him from behind. He had imminently pulled away from the women, feeling uncomfortable and violated. Had women and some men grab his butt as well. He didn't like being touched any more than necessary out of family and friends. He's had to announce on live TV to ask for a hug or a handshake instead of just doing it. Physical touch has always been hard for him because of the bullying he got most of his life before high school. He just couldn't handle strangers touching him, and sometimes friends, if not in the mood. Most of his friends usually ask for a hug by simply stretching out their arms slightly in front of them or with their eyes when saying goodbye. He was always grateful that they respected his boundaries, which was another reason he didn't like modeling with others. Some have taken advantage of the closeness. It took so much out of him, and he didn't have much in him to begin with. So he chooses modeling gigs where it's only him and he doesn't show a lot of skin, which was somehow hard to do. He was pretty sure it was for fan services. He knows that for most, heroes aren't seen as human. And the higher you are on the board, the worse it is. The top 10 had it worse, and the #1 had it the worst. This was honestly something he wished had been taught to them in school, not something they had to figure out. Don't you wish our teachers told us these things? Izuku told her. Yeah, it was definitely a surprise when it happened the first time to you, she replied with a nod. But at the same time, if we were told, I'm sure some wouldn't want to be a hero anymore, so they didn't have to deal with the harassment, along with not being seen as a human. You deal with that part worse than anyone. It's like you have to be perfect when no one is. He sighed. Yeah, All Might said he dealt with the same thing. I have no idea how he dealt with this for so long. He ran a hand through his hair before rubbing the back of his neck. Any mistake I make is somehow worse than it actually is, and it makes everything out of hand for a while before it dies out. I should be able to make a mistake and not have the world go into chaos, he said, annoyed. Yeah, it's overkill. It's not like we don't know we could have done better to stop that outcome, Achiko said as she crossed her arms with a pout. I just want to sock some of them in the face when they say stupid shit like that. Yeah, you're not the only one, he grumbled as he shoved some food in his mouth. Izuku's phone then went off, making them both jump in surprise. Izuku got up and went to the living room table to get his phone. Masashi was calling him. He picked it up as he headed back to the kitchen table with it on speaker. Hey, what's up? He asked. Hey, we kinda have a problem. Well, you do, he said. The two raised a brow as Izuku asked, what kind of problem? Okay. It's about your new wearable merch, he said. Oh, I thought it was something really bad. You scared me there, Achiko said with a hand over her heart. Well, it's bad for Izuku. It's a modeling gig and they won't accept no for an answer, Masashi explained. What kind? Izuku asked as he rubbed his temples, setting his phone on the kitchen table as he sat down. Well, Masashi hesitated. Masashi, what kind of gig is it? He snapped at him. It has literally everything you hate in a photo shoot, he told him, the words coming out fast but slow enough for them to catch. Izuku gritted his teeth. So, it's going to show a lot of skin and it's going to be with other models? Achiko questioned. And usually they don't press for him to do these types of modeling gigs knowing very well he doesn't like them, and usually me saying no does the trick, but I guess because of the type of clothes it is and who the model is they aren't accepting a no this time, and I even said I'd talk with Izuku about it, and said that his answer would be no, but they wanted me to convince you to say yes, and I told them I couldn't do that, but they wouldn't listen, so now I'm here, he muttered out. The two sighed. Izuku's muttering problem had rubbed off on Masashi at some point in the years he's worked for him, which is around 5 years. He was Izuku's first sidekick. Wait, what type of clothes and who's the model? Izuku asked. It's men's and women's underwear, he said before pausing. And the model is Katsuki Bakugo. Their eyes widened. It'll be very hard to deny modeling with her. She's modeled with all of the top heroes already besides you. I even called some of the other heroes who have modeled with her agency before, and they all said it's impossible to deny them, and it's just easier to agree to it. Hiro Shoto even had a hard time denying them, which says something, seeing as who his father is, he explained. Yeah, I just agreed when I modeled with her, 'cause they gave off the voice that no wasn't going to be accepted. You're going to have to accept it or else this can bring down your image, Achiko told him. I'm not modeling for underwear. I don't care if it brings down my reputation, he told them sternly. Fans aren't going to react that well to this, you know that, Masashi stressed. I don't care. I'm not doing it, he said as he crossed his arms stubbornly. They know I would never agree to do modeling for something that shows a lot of skin, and underwear is like taking a picture naked. It's not happening. A lot of heroes that have modeled with her are usually wearing clothes that show a lot of skin. Hiro Uravity modeled swimming suits with her, and Hiro Shoto did a suggestive picture with her for perfume, and Hiro Red Riot did something with gym clothes that also showed a lot of skin, Masashi told him, going on about all of the gigs his friends did with Katsuki. I don't mind modeling with Bakugo-san, but I'm not doing anything that shows a lot of skin, Izuku told him. What type of underwear is it? Achiko asked. CC underwear, Masashi stated, hesitantly. That's worse than regular underwear. Izuku snapped. And why did you agree to something like that? In my defense, I didn't think Bakugo's agency would force you to model with her, he answered, trying to defend himself. Is it Bakugo herself that's forcing this, or is it her agency? Achiko asked. Her agency. They said Bakugo said she didn't care if he agreed, even flat out refused it, knowing Izuku didn't like these types of photo shoots, he replied. Wait, really? She refused? Izuku questioned, confused and shocked. But she's a big fan of Izuku. Wouldn't she want to model with him? Achiko questioned, just as confused and shocked. Izuku found that even odder. He'd thought she would want to model with him. Yeah, but she understands that it can be uncomfortable for him. I even talked to her directly, wanting to hear it from her. If Izuku generally doesn't want to, she will try to talk to her agency so he doesn't have to do it, Masashi explained. That's nice of her, Achiko gasped. Yeah, she said she'd love to model with him, but not like this. She said she'll see if she can at least change what they model if they won't let him say no to modeling with her, just so he won't be showing as much skin, he explained further. She seemed generally upset about all of this too, so I trust that she'll be trying to change things on her end. I guess wait until Bakugo-san finds a way to change something, 'cause I doubt they will change their mind about him saying no, Achiko said. Bakugo-san said she'll call me tomorrow to see what they say. We can only hope they change something, he said. Okay, tell me when she calls tomorrow, Izuku told him. When will the photo shoot be? In 2 weeks, so after Mother's Day, he answered. So we have time to sort everything out. Okay, thanks for letting me know, Izuku sighed. No problem. See you when you get to work, he said before hanging up. Izuku groaned, annoyed as he rubbed his face with both hands. Well, at least Bakugo-san is trying to help you, Ochako said hesitantly, with a sheepish chuckle. Izuku just groaned louder in annoyance. He couldn't believe this was happening. What am I going to do? There's no way they will change their minds, he cried. I guess the only thing you can do is model CC underwear with her, Ochako sighed, giving up on trying to be hopeful. They both know it'll all be a waste. Well, I guess we should head to work now, she said as she heaved herself out of her chair and took her empty plate to the sink. Izuku sighed and did the same. They put up leftovers and cleaned the dishes before heading out. Izuku drove Ochako to her agency. He said nothing about the clean car, knowing she and Chishio had cleaned it while he was asleep. It was just added to the list that the two have done for him. After dropping her off, he headed to his agency to get ready for work. When he got to his office, he noticed it had been cleaned up some. All of the trash was put into big trash bags, and his clothes were pushed into a pile at the end of his bed, but the paperwork was still scattered everywhere. He'd rather they not touch his paperwork. It was easier to find in his organized mess than when they put it all in piles. He sighed as he walked to his locker to change into his suit. He then walked around the office to pick up his paperwork and put it in organized piles on his desk that had been cleaned. He needed to get through some of it today, but he also needed to go on patrol. He sighed again as he sat down, debating what he was going to do. He decided to go on patrol and work on paperwork on his breaks. He stood up and headed to his balcony and took off to the sky, hoping nothing was too hectic today. The next day, while Izuku was in his office getting ready to leave to head to Ochiko's apartment, Masashi burst into the room. Izuku was at his locker, taking off his suit to change into civilian clothes. He's going to be staying with Ochako and Chishio for the rest of the week. He had gone to his apartment to get extra clothes to take with him yesterday night when he decided to stay the week. They, of course, didn't care and gave him their spare room once again. Izuku, she called back, he said loudly. She finally got back? What did she say? Izuku questioned. They won't change anything and want to see you at the photo shoot in 2 weeks, he answered, annoyance in his voice. Izuku sighed, knowing this was going to happen. It's okay. I'll just do the stupid photo shoot, not like I have a choice, he told him tiredly. Are you sure? He asked, concerned. Yeah, there's nothing I can do unless I want to get the police involved, and that'll just cause more trouble, Izuku sighed. Okay, I'll tell them you'll do the photo shoot, he said before leaving, closing the doors behind him. Izuku let out a heavy sigh as he finished getting changed. Once he was done, he headed out to his car. He pulled his phone out and called Ochako to tell her the news. As he waited for her to pick up, he buckled up and started his car. He connected his phone to his car. Ochako picked up with a hello. Hey, I got some bad news, he told her as he pulled out of his parking spot. She got back to you about the photo shoot? She asked. Yeah. They aren't going to change anything and want to see me at the photo shoot, he repeated what Masashi told him as he started his way to Ochiko's apartment. You have to be kidding me? That's effed up. They can't just force you into a photo shoot. She yelled into his stereo. I know, but I'm not getting the police involved. It'll just cause me more problems, he explained. What assholes, she grumbled angrily. He sighed, agreeing with her. They're being extra pushy. They weren't this unreasonable with other top heroes. I wonder if it has to do with you being the #1 hero or because Bakugo-san is a fan of yours, she questioned curiously, but annoyed. My guess is as good as yours. All Might never had this much trouble when it came to modeling, he sighed heavily. I thought he would have, with how long he was #1 before retiring, she questioned. He told me that he never dealt with this when I asked about it yesterday afternoon, he told her. He had some that were pushy, but they followed his request just fine, even at the agency Bakugo-san works for. That's odd. Then why would they be so persistent on you doing this? She questioned, even more puzzled. I'm not sure, even All Might was at a loss, he replied, just as lost. I'm not any different than any other hero. Well, you do have 7 quirks and ended 2 of the greatest villains, she told him sheepishly. That still has nothing to do with why they would be so pushy about this. I have more important things to do than pose for RDC photos, he grumbled, a deep frown on his face. Did Bakugo-san or her agency say why they wanted you to model so badly? She asked. No, they gave no explanation. I'd probably have to call myself if I want more answers, he said. Then call them. This is just unfair, Achiko pouted. Yeah, I will when I get to your place. Are you home yet? He asked. No. I'll be off a little later, but Chishio should be there unless something happens at work, but we gave you a key, she told him. He hummed. Okay, I'll call you back after I call them, he told her. Okay, bye, she said. She hung up after he said goodbye. He was lost in thought the rest of the ride to her apartment. He just couldn't wrap his head around all of this. When he entered Achiko's and Chishio's apartment, he texted Masashi for Katsuki's and her agency's numbers. While he wanted for him to send the numbers, he took a quick shower. Chishio wasn't here, so he guessed she was held up at work. By the time he was out of the shower, Masashi had sent their phone numbers. He debated on who he should call first. He ended up just calling the agency. If he didn't get anything from them, he would call Katsuki. After a couple of rings, someone picked up. Hello, this is Deku. I wanted to call about the photo shoot I was going to be having with you guys in 2 weeks, he said. Oh, Hero Deku. What did you want to know? A man on the other side asked excitedly. I was wondering why you guys are so persistent on me joining this photo shoot, he told him. Oh, well, we have done shoots with all of the other top-ranked heroes already. Why, and you're the only one we haven't had one with yet. Our main model is also a huge fan of yours and has been wanting to do one with you for years now, the guy said. Izuku could feel him smiling through the phone. Izuku frowned. Yes, this is true, but your main model also said she doesn't want to model with me if it deals with me being uncomfortable, he explained. Oh yes, she did say that. She tried really hard to change my mind about the whole thing, but I think it'll be better if you did it with our original idea, the guy said happily. Izuku clenched his jaw. Plus, I don't want to miss out on such an opportunity. What opportunity? Izuku asked, trying to keep his annoyance and anger out of his voice. Well, as you should know, everyone has been wanting you to do more photo shoots that show more skin, and this gives you the opportunity to show off everything that your fans would want to see, the man grinned. Plus, if you give them this one, they will be satisfied and not ask for more. No, it wouldn't satisfy them, they'll want more photos like the ones you want to take, Izuku explained to him, a little bit of his annoyance showing in his voice. Is there something you're trying to hide, Hero Deku? He asked, his voice dropping. No, this deals with my privacy, he answered, clenching his jaw. If I don't want to show my body, that should be my choice, not yours or anyone else's. To me, it sounds like you're hiding something, he replied. My body is as normal as the next guy, I just don't feel comfortable showing it off to people, he told him, trying to keep his cool. I've heard from All Might you didn't even give him this much trouble, so what's so different about me? He asked. Oh, yes, we cooperated with him and made sure he was comfortable, the man smiled before his voice darkened, but he also didn't give us this much trouble. You're so much more picky than he was. Maybe because I care about my privacy, Izuku said, done with his bullshit. I'm not some trophy to put on display. But sir, you are. You've done whatever All Might couldn't do, the man said, sickeningly sweet. You're unique, like Uravity said all those years back. You're taking what she said out of context, Izuku couldn't help but snap at him. But am I? He asked with a voice that made Izuku feel uneasy. You are special, you're different from everyone else, and I can't help but want to take photos of you that show it all off. Izuku felt a shiver go up his spine. He could feel danger sense going off. Izuku had a feeling there was something up with this guy. If you do this for me, I won't bug you to do any other photo shoots in the future. So what do you say? He asked. Izuku gulped. He was unsure if he should trust this guy, but he knows he doesn't have much of a choice but to agree. Fine, as long as you promise to not want anything else from me, he bargained. Of course I promise. We can even sign a contract when you get here so that my company can't have you model for us, the man smiled. Okay, I'll see you in 2 weeks then, Izuku said. Okay then, see ya then, the man grinned happily before hanging up. Izuku pulled his phone away from his ear and looked at it, feeling uneasy. He had a really bad feeling about this. He wondered if he should call Katsuki if she knew anything, but it was late. He sighed and called Achiko again to tell her what the guy said. Izuku, promise me you'll be safe while you're there. It doesn't sound safe, she told him worriedly. I will, he said. The front door then opened. He walked to the hallway and saw it was Chishio. Chishio just got home. I'll let you get back to work, he told her. Of course, see you when I get home, she said. Yeah, bye, he said before hanging up. How was work? He asked the blonde as she walked up to him with her purse in hand. Probably went better than yours. Achiko told me the news about the photo shoot, she said. He couldn't help but clench his jaw at the thought of it. I just got off the phone with her. I called up the agency and talked to the CO, he told her as they walked into the living area to sit on the couch. Oh, what did he say? She asked. Izuku then went on to tell her about the call. That doesn't sound safe, she commented worriedly as she put a hand over her chest. Yeah, but I don't have much of a choice, he sighed as he slouched into the couch cushion. She nodded, her lips pressed together. Hopefully he keeps his end of the bargain, he said. She nodded. She then patted his thigh. I'm going to go show, or then start on dinner. Okay, he replied simply, letting her leave. He pulled his legs up and crossed them. He then grabbed the remote to the TV and turned it on. Achiko would be home a little bit. Katsuki was in her apartment, said. She doesn't understand why her boss would be such about Izuku not wanting to do the photo shoot. She was excited at first to hear that she would be able to model with him, but then they said what they would be modeling, and she knew Izuku wouldn't want to do it. She didn't want to force him to do it either, and even tried to help him out, but it seems her boss isn't changing his mind. It was such a pain. Fuchsia sat on the couch beside her, just as upset as her. Fuchsia lived with her, finding it easier to keep her eye on her, and they were both less lonely this way. Neither of them had lovers. Fuchsia had gotten out of a marriage 5 years ago, not long after becoming her assistant. She was 6 years older than Katsuki, who was 21 this year. She had gotten married to her high school sweetheart, but not long after marriage it turned sour, so they got divorced. Katsuki was 17 when it happened and was 16 when she became her assistant. She had one before her. She had him fired after he sexually assaulted her and wanted a female assistant, hoping they wouldn't do the same. He worked for her for 3 years, and he had always been creepy. On her 16th birthday, he decided to make a move on her. She broke his nose after pushing him off of her. It wasn't her first time being sexually assaulted either. It's happened a lot throughout her time as a model. And the boyfriend she had in high school raped her. He was her first and last boyfriend. She had gotten with him in middle school, but not long after entering high school, after her 16th birthday, he forced her into SEC at her house when her parents weren't home. Of course, it had to happen after she was assaulted by her assistant. When Fuchsia became her assistant, she helped her through everything and made sure to take good care of her. She helped her with everything, and she became Katsuki's only true friend. She made sure Katsuki was comfortable and well-nourished after forced diets for certain photo shoots. She made sure she put the weight back on after only being skin and bones. Why did he have to put all the blame on me? Sure, I want to model with him, but not that damn bad, she yelled as she stomped her foot and crossed her arms with a huff. You know how he is, Fuchsia sighed. Plus, he's obsessed with Deku. He's been waiting for an opportunity like this. She screamed in pure frustration. All you can do is make sure he is comfortable while he's there, she told her. She groaned but nodded. Fuchsia's phone then went off. Katsuki recognized that ringtone. It was Mr. Abiko, her boss. Fuchsia picked it up and put it on speaker. Yes, she questioned. Hello, I just wanted to say Hiro Deku had called me to tell me personally he'll do the photo shoot with Katsuki-san, he said. And why in the world would he do that? Katsuki asked him skeptical. Oh, Katsuki-san, he said delightedly. She cringed. He was just asking about the photo shoot. I doubt that was all you said, you psycho, Katsuki cursed at him. He laughed. You know me so well, Katsuki. She rolled her eyes. He was just curious as to why I wanted him to model for me so badly. I ended up making a bargain with him, that if he does this one photo shoot, I won't bug him anymore about future shoots. Of course, you forced him into this. You manipulating piece of shit, Katsuki snapped at him. Such foul language, he chuckled. Think of this as finally being able to have a photo shoot with him and being able to see him practically naked. You're the only one that wants that. I told you I didn't want to do the photo shoot, she yelled angrily. Katsuki-san, he said, his voice dropping low. She tensed. You need to lose a couple of kilos before the shoot. Preferably to be able to fit one size smaller than what you already are, he told her. She clenched her jaw. Anyways, I'll let you guys go. Good night, he smiled before hanging up. Katsuki screamed as she kicked her low table over and across the living room. I'm already underweight as is from our last photo shoot, and he wants me to lose more. I'm going to be in the hospital again because of his butt, she said. She had just started to gain some weight too. He knows if you lose any more weight, it'll be dangerous for you. Why would he say that? Fuchsia questioned, confused but angry. Katsuki let out a cry of fury before collapsing on the couch with a defeated sigh. Fuchsia patted her thigh with a sigh of her own. Let's head to bed, it's gotten late, she told her as she stood up and headed toward her room. Katsuki let out a heavy sigh before doing the same after turning all of the lights off. When Mother's Day came, Izuku went to a flower shop to make a personalized banquet for his mother. Usually, he just sends pink tulips, which in flower language means well wishes, happiness, and love, in a platonic sense. He thought it was the perfect flower to send to his lovely mother, but he wanted to say more with flowers. He still kept the pink tulips, but he added pink azaleas, which meant taking care of yourself and family, orange tulips, which meant understanding and appreciation, begonias since they're a way to say thank you, pink roses that meant grace, happiness, and gentleness, and purple hyacinths say, please forgive me. It cost quite a bit of money, but it was worth it for his mother. He also got her some gifts. He got her some of her favorite chocolates, along with a personalized necklace. It was a small gold birthstone flower with his and his mother's birthstone in the middle, twin rubies. It was also pricey, but he didn't care. He had too much money he didn't know what to do with anyway. He had the chocolates and necklace in a medium-sized gift bag. Besides the gifts, he planned for them to go out for lunch to a nice restaurant, knowing she doesn't go out much. When he got to his childhood apartment, he knocked. He heard his mother's voice before the door was opened a minute later. She looked up at him in shock. Izuku? She questioned in surprise. Honey, I didn't know you were going to be coming over, she said frantically. He chuckled with a smile. I wanted to surprise you. Oh my, what about work? She asked. I took the day off so I could spend it with you, he told her. She pushed her lips together as she put a hand over her chest, trying to stop the tears from flowing. She then reached up to cup his face. He leaned down so she could reach him. She pulled him down lower so she could give him a kiss on the forehead and cheek. He chuckled and gave her a peck on the cheek as well. She then let go of him and moved to the side. Come in. He nodded and walked inside. He took off his shoes and followed her to the living room. When they sat down, he handed her the flowers and gift bag. Oh, she gasped in shock. You didn't have to get me anything, she smiled at him. Of course I do. I've missed out on multiple Mother's Days. You deserve more than some flowers, he told her kindly. She pushed her lips together as tears welled up in her eyes once again. She laid the flowers down gently on the low-rise table before putting the gift bag in her lap. She opened the bag and pulled out a bag and a box of chocolates. You remembered, she sniffled. He nodded with a proud smile. She giggled before pulling out a black box. She raised her brow. What's this? She asked. Just open it, he hurried her. She smiled before opening the box and gasped with her hand over her chest at seeing the necklace. Oh Izuku, it's beautiful but I can't wear this. This old lady will ruin it, she told him. That's nonsense, you're beautiful and it'll look just as stunning on you, he told her with a smile. She smiled softly at him before looking back at the necklace to take in every detail. Twin rubies, she whispered. Our birthstones, he answered softly. She looked at him with teary eyes before tears gushed out of her eyes. He chuckled softly at her as he took the box from her and took out the necklace. Let me put it on, he told her as he unclipped it. She nodded and turned around. He gently put the necklace around her neck and clipped it together at a comfortable length. She turned back to him and put a hand to it before pulling him into a tight hug. He hugged her back, nuzzling into her neck. "Thank you so much," she cried. "You're welcome," he replied. He then pulled away. "I have one more surprise," he told her. She looked at him with raised brows. "What is it?" "I made reservations at a nice restaurant for lunch." He smiled happily at her. Inko's eyes widened. "Don't worry, it's not all that expensive," he told her. "Are you sure? The gifts and you coming over is enough for me," she questioned him. He nodded. "Of course, we used to have mom and son dates when I was younger and I always enjoyed them. I want to be able to treat you to something nice like you did for me." "Oh, okay, let me go get changed and freshen up," she smiled. "Of course," he smiled happily. She patted his thigh before going to her room. Izuku then stood up and grabbed the flowers to put them in a vase. When he was down setting them up, he put the vase on the dining room table right in the middle. He was glad all of the flowers looked good together. "Oh, you put them in a vase, thank you," he heard his mother say. He turned around to look at her. She wore a simple gray cocktail dress with an oval collar that went just below her knees. The dress had long sleeves that stopped mid-forearm. She paired it with black flats that she held in her hand and tan stockings. She seemed to be wearing light neutral makeup with a clear gloss. He's honestly never seen her all dressed up before. She looked down at herself before folding her arms loosely. "Do I look weird?" he gasped. "Of course not. You look absolutely stunning." She blushed some before smiling happily at him. He smiled back. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded. He already came dressed. A nice pale yellow button-up shirt with black slacks. They walked to the front door and he put back on his dress shoes. She dropped her flats and slid them on. She grabbed her purse and they headed out. He had his car cleaned, inside and out. He was not going to have her sit in filth like he usually did. He opened the door for her, making her giggle. She got in and buckled up and he shut the door before going to the driver's side to get in. He buckled up and started the car then headed out. "Izuku, has anything interesting happened?" Inko asked her son. Well, I guess there is something I should tell you," he told her nervously. "What is it?" she questioned. "Well, I'm being forced into doing a photo shoot for some of my new merch," he explained sheepishly. "Forced? Is it those modeling gigs you don't like?" she asked. "Yeah, it's for CC underwear," he muttered. She looked at him with wide eyes. "What?" she yelled. "And it's with the young model Katsuki Bakugo," he finished. "Why in the world are you being forced to model that?" she asked. Bakugo-san's boss likes to have her model with all of the top-ranked heroes and doesn't let them say no. I had called to ask why he was being extra pushy with me modeling with her, definitely with it having to be underwear, but he went on about me being one of a kind and had to have me model for him like I was some type of trophy, he explained. "Did Bakugo-san have anything to say about this?" she asked. "She actually tried to help me. She tried to see if they could change the type of clothes so less skin was shown, but he didn't budge," he told her. "Well, that's nice of her," she exclaimed. "I see her model your merchandise a lot. Is she a fan of yours?" "Yes, and she does want to model with me, but not if it means I'm uncomfortable," he said. "At least she understands," she sighed. He hummed with a nod. "So you're going to be modeling underwear?" she asked. He nodded. "When?" "End of next week," he answered. "I thought I should tell you since it'll take you by surprise seeing me half naked all over Japan." "Yes, that would definitely take me by surprise," she said in agreement. "But I hate that they're making you do this, sweetheart. I know how you hate showing a lot of skin because of your scars. Other people get uncomfortable by seeing them too, and with just having underwear on they'll see all of them besides just the ones on my face, hands, and arms," he explained. "I don't feel comfortable with the world seeing how messed up my body is. We can only hope that the photo shoot goes well so it doesn't take any longer than it needs to," she told him. He nodded. "Well, I guess besides that, how has everything been?" she asked. "I guess everything's been okay. I've been staying with Achiko and Chishio again," he told her. "It's very nice of those two women to help you. It's been a while since I've seen them." "How have they been?" she said. "Oh, they've been great. They finally found a wedding venue and are now sending out invitations," he told her happily. She smiled as she clasped her hands. That's lovely to hear. I'm glad Achiko-san could find happiness. He smiled. She deserves Chishio. She is a lovely woman. That she is. Inko grinned. Inko has met her a handful of times when Achiko came over to visit her. Achiko was like a daughter to her while Inko was like another mother to her. But I also want you to find happiness. You deserve it too after everything you've done for the world, she told him. Thanks, Mom. He smiled. Have you found someone you like yet? She asked. Izuku choked on his own saliva as a blush consumed his face. She laughed. So you're all red, she grinned. I don't like anyone, he told her embarrassedly. Really? To me it seems someone captured your heart, she said. God, Achiko and Masashi have said the same thing, he groaned. That means someone has, she told him. So who is it? He felt his cheeks heat up more at the thought of the ash-blonde woman he saved about a week ago. Okay, I guess someone has caught my attention but it doesn't mean I like them, he told her, giving in. So who has caught my son's attention? She teased. Katsuki Bakugo, he muttered. Inko looked at him with wide eyes. Have you guys met before? She asked. I saved her last week from a robber at a jewelry store, he told her. She hummed. And what about her caught your attention? Her eyes, he grumbled, embarrassed. She does have pretty eyes. They're like rubies, she smiled. He nodded with a hum. He pulled into the restaurant's parking lot and found a spot to park. He got out and went around to open the car for his mother. He held out a hand for her to help her out. She smiled at him as she took his hand and got out of the car. He closed the door once she was out of the way. Inko waited by the trunk of the car, looking at the semi-fancy restaurant. He walked up to her and held out his arm for her to hold. She hooked her arm around his and they started their way to the restaurant's entrance. Once entering, they were met with a reservationist at a stand. They walked up to him. Name? The reservationist asked, not even looking up at them fully. Midoriya, Izuku answered. The women looked up at him with wide eyes. He put a finger to his lips. She nodded as she covered her mouth to keep in a fangirl scream. She looked back at the guest list, checked them in, and grabbed 2 menus from under the stand before showing them to a table. A waiter will be with you guys shortly, she told them as she placed a menu in front of each of them before giving a small bow. Thank you, Izuku smiled. She nodded before returning to her position. He looked over at his mother. I hope this is okay. This is way more than what I was expecting, but it's okay. It's been years since I've been in a restaurant like this, she smiled at him. Izuku had to stop himself from frowning. He knows she's talking about her coming to one of them with his father. The man that's never been in his life. Izuku, honey, please don't think about it too much. Let's just enjoy a nice late lunch, she smiled at him. He nodded. They picked up the menus and looked through them. Wow, these are quite expensive. Are you sure it's okay to eat here? She asked as she looked up at him with uncertainty. Mom, I've told you I'm treating you. Don't worry about the bill. Choose whatever you want, he smiled at her. She nodded before looking back at the menu. When a waiter came over, they ordered their food and drinks, which they both went with water. How have you been doing? He asked her. I've been doing good. Toshinori comes to visit every so often to talk, which is nice. Do you guys still talk? She told him. Izuku was very aware that the two had gotten close, definitely after the war, since he was often over to check in on him, which was nice. All Might has always been like a dad to him. If they are closer than what they originally were, he has no idea. Yeah, we talk every once in a while, though it's been a while since I last saw him, he answered. What do you guys talk about? Oh, nothing much, she smiled. He'll talk about work if something interesting happens, but otherwise it's usually about you. Me? He questioned with a raised brow. He's just worried about you. We both are, she told him. He frowned as he looked at the table. Please don't let that bring you down, Izuku. It's only natural for us to worry. You're my son and he sees you as his son, she told him softly. He nodded as he pushed his lips together. He wanted to argue and say they didn't need to worry about him, but he knew it would be in vain. They had every reason to worry about his dumbass. They both know how he is. I don't mean to worry you guys, he sighed. We know, but it's okay, she smiled gently at him. Even if you didn't have all the problems you do, you're still a hero. We'd worry about you regardless. He nodded. She was always worried about him throughout his whole life. But let's not talk about depressing things, she hummed with a tilt of her head. He nodded. How are your other friends? She asked. Oh, I suppose they're doing okay. I haven't talked to some of them in a while, he told her. I guess they've been busy, she said. He nodded, though Shoto is going to be throwing a party for making it to number 4 in the hero rankings. Oh, the new rankings came out sometime last week and he went up again. I'm proud of him. He's come a long way from when I first met him, she smiled. He nodded. Well, make sure you have fun. You deserve some relaxation. Well, I hope everything goes smoothly. It's the day after my photo shoot since everyone wants to hear how it goes, he told her. He couldn't help but sigh at the thought of the photo shoot. Well, this is kinda a big deal. It's your first major photo shoot. All your friends are going to want to know how it goes. Don't forget to tell me and Tashinori as well, she told him. He nodded. He knows they're all just worried. They all texted him in the group chat about it, expressing their concerns. Shoto had decided to hold his party until after the shoot so it's easier to tell them all in person. He was grateful, but he didn't want to take the spotlight off of him. Shoto of course didn't care, only wanted to see how the shoot went and if he was okay afterwards. Plus it will be a few days before the photos are actually released. Yeah, I know. I just wish I wasn't doing it in the first place, he sighed as he rested his head in his hand. She hummed. Your food, a waiter said. Izuku sat up and looked at the man. Oh, thank you, he smiled at the man. He nodded as he sat 2 glasses of water on the table from a cart before moving their food over to the table. Have a nice meal, the man smiled at them when he was done before leaving with the cart. Izuku was glad no one was causing them trouble. He then felt a tug on his pants. He blinked and looked down and saw a small child. You're Deku, aren't you? The boy asked excitedly. He sighed, he should have known better. Hey, leave Deku alone, he's here with company. A woman came over and grabbed the child's arm. But Mom, I want his autograph, he cried. Izuku sighed. The woman frowned at her son. It's okay, he told the women. He then looked at the little boy. Kids were much harder to have leave him alone. Do you have something for me to sign and a pen? He asked the boy. If it was an older child he would turn them down, but he was around 4. In his expressness, kids under 6 often throw tantrums if he didn't do what they asked, and he'd rather not deal with it. Kids between 7 and 12 were persistent but are easier to have them come back later if he didn't have the time. Teens and adults were much easier to talk to about finding a time to give autographs and getting pictures with him. The boy looked at his mother, obviously having nothing on him. Inko then pulled a picture out of her son and a pen. It was a picture that most have. It was just him in his hero suit smiling at the camera. She made sure to get new ones every year and put them in her purse if she goes out with her son. They often had a few kids come up wanting autographs but never had anything. Here, honey. Sign this for him, she told her son as she held them out to him. Izuku looked at her and smiled. He grabbed the picture and pen and signed it before giving it to the little boy. Here you go, he smiled at the boy. The boy grinned happily. The mother smiled gratefully at them before dragging her son back to their table. Izuku handed Inko her pen back. She took it and put it back in her purse. It's nice that you carry those with you. It causes me less trouble, he smiled at his mother. I'm aware, she giggled. Izuku chuckled. They then dug into their food. Katsuki was at her parents' house. She had flowers in hand as she stood at the door. She was unsure if she should actually see them, not in the state she was in. Fuchsia had dropped her off, telling her to visit since she hadn't visited in a while. Katsuki never liked having to visit home and show them the mess she was. She sighed heavily before ringing the doorbell. She heard her mother's voice. She pushed her lips together as she kept telling herself to stay, to not run away. The door then opened to her mother, Mitsuki. She looked as young and beautiful as always. Katsuki? She questioned out of shock. Katsuki! She yelled as she pulled her into a hug. Katsuki wrapped her arms around her, hugging her close with one hand. Mitsuki pulled away some and cupped her face. I didn't think you'd be coming. Me and Masaru were going to go out and celebrate, she told her. Happy Mother's Day, Katsuki stumbled out as she pulled away and showed her the flowers. Mitsuki looked at them and smiled. She let go of her face and grabbed the flowers. Thank you. Come on in, she smiled as she moved out of the way to let her in. Katsuki nodded and walked in. She took her shoes off before walking further into her childhood home. How have you been? We haven't talked in a while, Mitsuki asked her as she moved to the kitchen to pot the flowers. Katsuki followed. She saw her father sitting at the table doing some paperwork. He looked up at her with surprise. Oh, Katsuki, you came over. How have you been? He asked as he got up to embrace her in a hug. She smiled softly at the man as she hugged him back. She missed being home. Being with her parents, but she didn't want to constantly listen to their worry, which was why she moved out. I've been good. Just getting ready for a photo shoot coming up next week, she said as they pulled apart. Oh, what's the photo shoot? Mitsuki asked from the sink. It's a photo shoot with Deku, she told them nervously. Mitsuki flung her head around to look at her with wide eyes. Masaru was looking at her with wide eyes as well. Wait, Hero Deku is doing a photo shoot with you? He rarely does photo shoots, Mitsuki told her. Yeah, my boss didn't let him say no. I tried to talk to him to at least change what we'll be wearing, but he wouldn't budge, Katsuki told them as she moved to sit at the island. What will you guys be wearing? Masaru asked her as he sat down beside her. CC underwear, it's his new merch, she told them with a groan. He doesn't like showing skin, her father said. Yeah, I know. My boss knows too, but he doesn't care, she sighed as she rubbed her face. Sure, I want to model with him, but not like this. I'd rather it be in a Deku Anisi, she groaned as she ran a hand through her hair. Yeah, at least he'd be comfortable then, but I'm sure your boss wants him to show off his scars, Mitsuki told her. Katsuki nodded. But some people are uncomfortable with seeing that many scars, and most of them are from his own quirk, Masaru said. Sure, heroes have scars and some are even missing parts of them, but he said he's covered head to toe in scars that affect how his body looks, specifically his fingers. Yeah. I can't even imagine how Deku feels right now, Katsuki said sadly. No kidding. That a-hole of a boss isn't making you have to lose weight for this, is he? You already look all skin and bones, her mother commented. Katsuki sighed. Her limbs were too skinny for someone of her size, and you could see her ribcage some. She's already gone down a whole clothing size, and all she had to do was keep the weight off, which usually meant she would be fasting, taking diet pills, and self-induced vomiting, and every so often would use laxatives. Fuchsia has her take vitamins, so she at least gets the vitamins she needs while not eating. When she was younger, she often ate cotton ball dipped in juice. She stopped after going to the hospital and a long lecture from her parents. They even hid the cotton ball somewhere in the house, and they never let her go shopping alone in case she bought some. In the process of everything, she got an eating disorder and even got into self-harm. That's not her eating disorder. She cuts her thighs up, but the scars are usually covered up or edited out when taking photos that show her inner thighs. She's cut her wrist a few times, but it's mainly her thighs since it's easier to hide. She hits herself as if she could smash the fat down, and she drowns herself in exercising to the point of exhaustion and collapsing in on herself. Her parents at some point had to stop her from killing herself and have taken her to the hospital for overdosing on diet pills. Fuchsia has tried to get her a dietitian, but Mr. Abiko said she doesn't need one, and if what she's doing now works, then to continue with that. Fuchsia got into a very deep argument with him about it, but he didn't listen to any of it. Fuchsia started to take lessons to become a dietitian not long after that argument, so Katsuki didn't have to always starve herself, but when your boss wants you skin and bones, it's hard to follow a diet, which she usually is on along with exercises and cardio. I'm already at the size he wants to be at. As long as I don't gain any weight, it should be fine, she told her parents. Honey, you need to eat. At this rate you're going to die young, her father told her. Why can't you just switch agencies? Mitsuki asked her. Mr. Abiko won't let me. Trust me, I've tried multiple times, Katsuki sighed as she rested her head in her hands, her elbows on the counter. He should be arrested for this sheet. All of his models are treated like this, Mitsuki cursed angrily as she practically slammed the vase on the island's counter. The flowers were beautifully arranged. He's the CEO of a huge company. The police aren't going to just investigate him knowing they would lose in court since he could just use money, Katsuki told her. Plus, all of the models are too scared to speak up since we all know he's not afraid to hurt us if we walk out of line. He's such a piece of shit. Mitsuki shouted angrily. You don't have to tell me that, Katsuki grumbled. She wondered if Izuku could do something about it, like if he sued the company for whatever reason. Since he's the #1 hero, a lot of people would be upset if Mr. Abiko did him wrong in any way. She's sure lots of fans will be upset about the photo shoot too. True fans knowing Izuku most likely didn't want to do it in the first place. Maybe Deku's fans will get involved since they've gotten onto companies before about making Deku do things he didn't want to. Maybe enough conflict will make the police do something, Katsuki stated. Masaru rubbed his chin. Yeah, Deku has a lot of fans and his bigger fans always back him up on things and get upset about rumors that clearly aren't true. They are most likely going to get upset over this as well. Mitsuki nodded. I guess we can only see what happens when the photos are released, Mitsuki said. They nodded in agreement. There were 2 more days before the photo shoot and Izuku felt like he was going to start going gray early from all of the stress, or go bald. He's already smoked more than he usually does, which was like half a pack a day on a good day. It has just passed noon and he's already smoked half a pack. He wishes he hadn't smoked so much already, but smoking is the only thing that keeps his nerves in check, otherwise he might accidentally hurt someone. The embers have been more talkative, trying to help calm his nerves and keep his mind off of it, but it's the only thing he's been able to think about for the last week and a half. He's too stressed to actually eat anything or even sleep properly, so he's been surviving on coffee more than usual. He could only get himself to eat a portion bar in the morning when the nervousness and stress hadn't completely hit him yet. The thought of eating actually made him feel like throwing up. He's not staying with Achiko and Chishio anymore and went back to living in his office. That was again a disaster. It's not as bad as it has been since he's not leaving trash everywhere from takeout. His place was still trashed, but he'll be cleaning it up with the help of his friends before he goes on a mission to the States. He already had rotting food sitting in his fridge and probably old takeout containers everywhere. Most of his dishes probably need to be tossed or bleached. He sighed as he walked down the sidewalk, already wanting to have a smoke. He ran a hand through his hair as he looked up at the summer blue sky, the sun beating down on him. Hey, get back here, a-hole. He heard a woman yell. He looked around and saw a man running right at him with a purse. Izuku sighed as he stuck his arm out and hooked it around the guy's throat when he tried to run past him before easily pinning the guy down on the hot concrete. The guy yelped before groaning. Izuku had a knee on his back and a hand on the back of his head. When Izuku looked up, he saw Katsuki looking down at him with wide eyes. Her chest was heaving as she breathed heavily, sweat falling from her forehead down her face. Biba Kuga-san, he stumbled out, a blush gracing his cheeks. She looked as beautiful as always, even though she looked a bit of a mess from changing after the purse snatcher. She wasn't wearing anything out there, just some high-waist blue jean shorts that went to her mid-thigh and a burnt orange crop top that hung off one of her shoulders, showing her dark green sports bra strap that looked a lot like one of his many gym clothes merch sets. She paired it with dark red chunks. She wore very casual clothes. Katsuki crouched down and grabbed her purse that was dropped on the ground before looking at him again. Thanks, again, Deku, she told him with a small smile. He blinked. You're welcome, he stuttered out. He hasn't had trouble speaking with a girl since his first year in high school. Why is he having trouble now? Was it because of the small crush he supposedly had on her? Wait, he needed to call this in and she needed to give a statement. He quickly called Masashi and told him to send a police officer his way. He then pulls out HNDCFFS from his utility belt. He pulled the guy's arms behind his back and cuffed his wrist before having him stand up. He held the guy by the forearms so he couldn't get away. But Kuga-san, you'll need to stay to give a statement, he told her, trying to get a stutter out of his voice and keep a blush off his face. That's fine. I'm not in any rush, she told him as she went through her purse, probably to see if the guy took anything out of it. He wondered if her assistant was with her since she was with her the last time he helped her. Is your leg okay now? You hurt it last week, didn't you? He asked her. She blinked up at him before her cheeks turned rosy. "Oh yeah, I'm okay. I just landed on my hip and it bruised some," she told him as she messed with her purse strap as she held it over her thighs. "I'm glad your wound's healed," he smiled at her. She nodded. A police car then pulled up beside them, parking by the pavement. Two police officers got out. One took the purse snatcher and the other took Katsuki's statement before taking Izuku's. Afterwards, they thanked him before leaving. Izuku sighed. That was the most action he's gotten all day since he's been having more smoke breaks than normal. He looks over at Katsuki, who seemed to have something on her mind. He wanted to ask, but it was best if he left. He didn't need to cause any unwanted attention to himself. "I'll be on my way then," Izuku told her before walking past her. "Wait," she called out. He stopped and looked back at her, turned to her. To see her looking at him, uncertainly. He walked back up to her. "Are you okay?" he asked her worriedly. She didn't seem injured to the naked eye, but there could be something else wrong. "No, can I speak with you?" she asked nervously. He blinked. Why would she want to speak with him? Sure, he knows she's a fan, but that's besides the point. It didn't seem to be anything that dealt with her being a fan, and how she said it seemed she had something she wanted to confess. What, he had no idea. "Oh sure. Do you want to speak more privately?" he asked, seeing as they were in the middle of lunch hour and lots of people were out. She nodded. Izuku looked around to see if there was anywhere they could speak privately. There was an alleyway, a building over they could talk in. "Okay, follow me," he told her. She simply nodded before following him. He walked into the alleyway and looked around and saw no one there. The other side was a dead and so others couldn't walk in on the other side. He walked them deep into the alleyway so the people out on the streets couldn't hear. "What did you want to talk about?" he asked her as they stood across from each other on opposite walls. She pushed her lips together, looking everywhere but at him before finally looking at him and speaking. "I wanted to apologize." "You have nothing to apologize for though," he told her, confused. I do." She yelled at him, making him flinch some. She looked away from him before speaking again. "For how I acted when you saved me at the jewelry store. I was quite rude to you even though you were only trying to be nice," she told him. Izuku opened his mouth some before closing it and pushing his lips together. He wasn't expecting her to apologize for that. There could have been multiple reasons she was rude, and he's aware that she is known as a hard ass, so he didn't take it offensively. "It's okay, I didn't take it offensively. You don't have to apologize," he told her earnestly. The grip on her purse straps tightened as she looked at the ground with her shoulders hunched. "I just felt bad, oh. So, I'm sorry I was rude to you," she spoke quietly. "And I forgive you, so don't beat yourself up over it," he told her softly with a reassuring smile. She looked up at him. His eyes met hers and they entranced him once again. He just couldn't get over how beautiful they were. She showed so much emotion with them and the colors suited her so well. He couldn't look away from them or away from her. "Deku, are you okay?" she asked hesitantly. "Your eyes are beautiful," he said without thinking, his tone dreamily. Her eyes widened as her face turned red. "What?" she questioned, flustered and confused. He blinked before his eyes widened as he realized what he just said. His whole body turned red from embarrassment as he covered his face and crouched down to make himself smaller. "I am so sorry. I didn't mean to say that aloud." He panicked. He then heard a muffled giggle. He uncovered his face and looked up at her and saw her covering her mouth, holding back a laugh. He couldn't help but look at her in awe. She moved her hand away and she saw a soft smile gracing her lips. A real smile, not the smiles she forces for photos. "You have some nice eyes yourself," she said lightheartedly, that beautiful smile not leaving her face. He felt his lips turn into a soft smile, one he was sure was real. He hasn't given a real smile in forever. It felt odd to do it after all this time. He wasn't even sure why he was smiling. Was it because of Katsuki? Was he smiling because of her? He felt oddly alive, and it's been a while since he's felt that way too. He watched as her light-hearted expression turned soft. It was like she knew that his smile was real and not fake like the 98% of his smiles that are. It pulled at his heartstrings. He couldn't help but think she could see him past the hero suit. That she could see him. This was the second time meeting her, and yet he felt oddly seen. The moment was ruined by his stomach letting out a loud growl. He blinked before his cheeks flushed. Katsuki let out a laugh before speaking. "Hungry?" "I guess so," he replied sheepishly. "You guess?" She questioned. "Oh, I haven't really been able to eat because of all of the stress about the photo shoot in 2 days," he explained as he stood up. "Nervousness and stress can do that to you," she commented. He nodded. "I'm going out for a late lunch, want to join?" she asked. He blinked down at her before his eyes widened. "What? You want me to eat lunch with you?" He stammered out as his cheeks flushed once again. He wasn't sure why he was feeling like a teenager again. "Yeah, I wouldn't have asked if I didn't want to eat with you," she told him matter-of-factly. "Boo, but wouldn't that bring attention to us?" He asked her. "I know a place we could go that's secluded," she told him. "And you can say no. I won't be upset if you do. You're still on duty too, so I'm sure you're busy." "I'm not that busy and I don't mind eating lunch with you," he stuttered out as he messed with his fingers. "Come on then." Katsuki smiled as she walked to the entrance of the alleyway. He nodded as he followed after her. They walked in silence to the place Katsuki told him about. Izuku followed from behind her instead of by her side. His heart was in his ears from how loud it was beating, and his face still felt flushed. He felt nervous, but it was different from the nervous anxiety he's been feeling. It wasn't an internal dread type of nervous. He's very used to that type of anxiety since he suffers from anxiety. But this felt different. He felt alive, kinda like pre-game jitters. His hands were all clammy in his gloves, and it felt like he had butterflies in his stomach. He tried to multitask by following her lead while looking out for any crimes that could be happening, but his eyes were tranced on watching her hips sway as she walked. He felt like a creep and a pervert, but he couldn't help it. He's never been much of a pervert. Sure, he'll watch porn from time to time just to have fat material when he ever got the time, or had the energy, to get off. He's also never been one to heavily masturbate either, finding it more as a chore to do every so often. He didn't even get into it until high school when one of the class perverts asked him about it. His mom never gave him the talk in anything related to EC, so it wasn't much of a surprise he hadn't done it until then. If he had questions, he just looked them up. It was easier than talking to his mother. He's sure she'd rather him look it up anyways. SEC wasn't even something he was interested in besides the teenage curiosity of it all. Though, that seemed to change after meeting Katsuki. He's touched himself more than he ever has in a month, scratch that, a year. He felt horrible about it too. He didn't want to soil his image of her with SXL fantasies that haunt him every time he sleeps. This also added to why he's nervous about the photo shoot. He doesn't think he'll be able to handle seeing Katsuki in just undergarments in person while also touching her. "We're here," Katsuki announced to him. Izuku looked at the restaurant. It was a ramen shop. It's been a while since he last went out to get an actual bowl of ramen. They walked in and sat down at a table. A waiter came up and gave them a menu before taking what they would take for drinks. They both got water, which was served a few minutes later. They ordered what they wanted when the waiter got back, and he went back to put their orders in. Izuku took off his gloves and put them in the chair beside him, laying on top of each other. Izuku looked around the tiny shop. It's a family-run shop. Lots of big shots come here to eat in peace, Katsuki explained to him. He hummed. "The owner is a retired hero," she added. "Really? Which hero?" He couldn't help himself but ask. Katsuki snorted. "He wasn't a top-ranked hero like you. Never passed 100, but he was popular among kids." "So the #1 hero has found my humble shop," an old man said lightheartedly. Izuku looked over at the man. He seemed to be in his 70s. "My grandson told me you were here. Had to come check with my own eyes," he smiled. Izuku chuckled. "Don't mind me too much." The man chuckled as he stroked his long white beard. "Don't worry. I made this shop in mind for well-known heroes and celebrities. Lots of heroes come here to eat, but I've yet to see you here," he explained. "Oh, well, I've just heard of this place. Bakugo-san offered me to join her for a late lunch," he told the man. "I see, she doesn't bring guests often and it's usually only her assistant," the old man told him. "Like I have a reason to bring anyone else here," Katsuki huffed. That is true, the old man chuckled. Bakugo is a regular here if you couldn't tell. She's been coming here since she was a teen. Katsuki rolled her eyes. The old man found me outside his shop in the middle of a storm late at night and took me in, Katsuki explained. Oh, that's nice of you, he told the man. I was only helping a lost child in the rain, the man smiled gently. Deku, you're always welcomed back here. Thank you, Izuku smiled at him. Your food, the young man from earlier said as he placed their bowls in front of them with chopsticks and a soup spoon. Well, you two enjoy your food, the old man told them with a smile before walking off with what Izuku believes is his grandson. They both say, thank you for the food, before digging in. The first bite had him groaning in delight at the favors that blossomed in his mouth. So good. Katsuki giggled. They make some of the best ramen I've ever had. Izuku nodded. Where's your assistant? Izuku asked. She's busy doing something today, she answered. He hummed. And, I'm sorry you're being forced into this photo shoot. I really did try to change his mind, she told him, her brows pushed together. It's okay. I'm just glad you tried, he smiled at her reassuringly. Her cheeks flushed some as she looked down at her bowel. If he wasn't going to listen to me, I knew he wasn't going to listen to anyone else, he told her. She nodded. He could tell she still felt bad, but he wasn't sure what to tell her to make her feel less guilty. He was still surprised she asked him to eat lunch with her and that he actually had an appetite. Deku, she called out. He hummed. Were you actually quirkless? She asked slowly. I was before I got my quirk passed down to me, he answered simply. She hummed as she looked at her steaming bowl. He could tell she had more to ask. I was bullied heavily because of it and didn't have any friends. I never actually had friends since so many saw me as weird, he told her before eating another mouthful of noodles. Katsuki looked up at him with wide eyes. He spoke again after swallowing. I got my first friend upon entering UA, which was Uravity. You guys do work a lot together, she commented. Yeah, she likes to keep a close eye on me, he told her with a soft smile. You guys must care a lot about each other, Katsuki told him. Yeah, she's like a sister to me, so I'm glad she was able to find someone after everything, Izuku explained. Hasn't she announced that she's getting married soon? She questioned him. Yeah. They've been trying to get a venue for a while now. I'm just glad they're finally able to get married, he smiled. What about you? She asked. He blinked. What about me? Do you have anyone? She asked. Izuku flushed. Why would you ask that? Because there haven't been any rumors about you having a girlfriend, so I was wondering if you actually had someone or not, she said nonchalantly with a shrug of her shoulders. I don't have anyone. Never have, he fumbled out. She blinked, seeming to be in shock. You never dated anyone? But anyone would gladly date you, she told him with raised brows and eyes full of surprise. People only want to date me because of my success. I don't want a lover who only wants me because of my image. I want someone who would want me for me, he told her, his tone coming off as harsh. Sorry, I didn't mean to come off as rude, he apologized soon after. No, it's fine. You're right. Most people would date you because of your fame, she frowned. And I know I'm rather plain looking compared to others and I'm full of scars. I doubt anyone would want me because of my looks. He frowned as he messed with his food with his chopsticks. I'm sure you'll find someone who'll love you for you, unless you completely stay away from romance like All Might did, she told him before taking a bite of her food. She wasn't wrong. Toshinori had stayed away from romance, but it wasn't because he wasn't interested. He wouldn't have minded dating or finding someone, but because he was traveling around the world when younger, he never really got the chance to. Plus, he grew in fame fairly quickly like he did. He didn't want to have to worry about getting with someone who didn't actually love him or have them get hurt because of him since AFO was after him. Luckily, AFO wasn't around anymore, so he didn't have to worry about that. He just had to worry about the other part. Plus, he was interested for the most part. He wanted to find the one for him, not just date to fill a hole the person was never actually filling. He had his reasons why he didn't date, he told her. Such as? She asked. All for one, he said simply. Oh, the villain you defeated, she said, her face dropping. Yeah. If he was to date, AFO would have killed the person to get to him. There were other reasons, but that was the main one. Since I took him out, I don't have to worry about that part, he explained. He was pretty sure he was dating his mom now, but he wasn't going to ask. Yeah, that would be difficult, she said. He hummed. Seeing as you know that, are you a fan of All Might? He asked her. Her cheeks flushed slightly. Yeah. I've always been a huge fan since I was young, she admitted. Like a huge nerd-level fan, she said as she covered her face embarrassed. Izuku chuckled. I am too. My room growing up was basically an All Might shrine. Katsuki snorted before covering her mouth with the side of her hand as she giggled. Before moving out, there was All Might merch everywhere in our apartment. Some of my friends said it was like walking into a museum of all of his merch throughout the years. My place now is honestly much worse, filled with all types of hero merch, he told her with a slight laugh. Katsuki laughed. My room was the same way. Now I just have a room completely dedicated to hero merch since I only keep my favorites in my room, she giggled. Izuku chuckled. For the remainder of the meal, they talked about heroes like a couple of nerds. Izuku never really had anyone to nerd out with about heroes. Anyone who would always bring him into the conversation. Katsuki never brought him up. She brought up older heroes and some of the newer heroes, but the majority of it was All Might. Everyone always found it weird how he was overly obsessed with All Might, but Katsuki listened and was overly obsessing with him too. They talked about all the weird shit they did to mimic All Might. About their favorite eras, favorite moves, favorite movies, favorite everything that dealt with All Might. It's been a while since he's been able to nerd out like this, and it seemed that it's been a while for her since they kept hyping each other up. He had so much fun and he felt like himself, even if it was for a bit. He couldn't stop smiling and grinning and laughing. He felt so alive and he didn't want this feeling to end. He wanted to keep talking to her. He wanted to keep watching her eyes shine and look at her bright smile. She looked even more beautiful like this. More beautiful than in any of those pictures she does for photo shoots. She looked just as alive as he felt talking about something she was so passionate about. Saying goodbye when they separated hurt much more than he thought it would. His heart physically aches, but he was able to walk away and he felt refreshed. More refreshed than he has in years.